Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, submitted his will to God. You are the Muslim.
In this video, a young woman asks Zakir Naik if she will go to paradise if she's a good Christian, and Zakir says yes, if you follow Jesus' true teachings. He then proceeds to quickly list off a bunch of verses out of context that have Jesus saying something like, the Father is greater than I can do nothing apart from the Father, and so on. Now, there are a lot of problems here, but I will begin with pointing out something that Zakir did correct. When presented with the question of Jesus' true teachings, he went to the Gospels, which are the earliest written sources on the life of Christ, all of which were written within around 60 years of Jesus' death, and all of which contain eyewitness testimony. These are exactly the sources we should be going to in order to discover what Jesus really taught, not a book that was composed 600 years after Jesus' death, in which nobody was even close to being an eyewitness. So let's look at the sources Zakir cites and see if they really paint the picture that he is saying they do. The first source he cites is the book of John, which tradition attributes to being written by one of the 12 disciples, who Jesus was especially close with. Let's see what else John says about Jesus in this gospel. In John chapter 1, we are told, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Verse 14, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Interesting. So the Word is God, and the Word came and dwelt among us. This is probably why Jesus says in John 8:58, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Zakir then quotes Matthew. Cool, let's look at what else Jesus says in Matthew. Chapter 17, 22 through 23. Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day. Chapter 20 says the same thing. It's important to know that the Son of Man was one of Jesus' most common ways of referring to himself. So Jesus is saying that he will be killed and then resurrected, which is the exact opposite of what Islam teaches about him. Next, Luke is quoted. Cool, let's look at Luke. Luke 22:69. Jesus says, but from now on, the Son of Man shall be seated at the right hand of the power of God. It's almost as if Zakir Naik memorized a bunch of out-of-context quotes that directly contradict the overall message of the sources that they came from, and then he quotes these to a bunch of eager yet ignorant audiences. Now, I agree with Zakir that the true followers of Jesus will have paradise, but as the disciple John himself tells us in 1 John 5:10, whoever does not believe God has made him a liar, because he has not believed in the testimony that God has borne concerning his Son.